It's time for Spotlight on Business on the NCWLIFE channel, where we look inside the stories of the businesses that make up North Central Washington. Welcome to the NCWLIFE channel's Spotlight on Business. I'm Eric Granstrom, and today we're at Go USA. You know, they've been doing business in the Wenatchee Valley for a long time, but did you know they started in the 1970s? The Hamiltons wanted to make some sweatshirts for their wrestling son, and it grew from there. They've become a definite fabric of this community since the 1990s when they moved over to Eastern Washington. We're going to find out more about their story, about Go USA, and how their focus is on getting it done right and on time. It's Go USA on the Spotlight on Business on the NCWLIFE channel.
I'm Dan Hamilton, the president of Go USA. So my parents, Bill and Diane Hamilton, founded the company back in 1972, and we were over in Edmonds, Washington. And at the time, we were doing schoolwork, t-shirts, sweatshirts for schools. Then we found ourselves in the 80s. We had done some projects with USA Wrestling, and next thing you know, we became the official merchandisers for USA Wrestling, which is kind of where the name Go USA came from. My parents were at a national qualifying tournament for the Olympics, and they heard somebody yell, "Go USA," and that's where the name came from.
Hamilton says the technology in the business has progressed in his time as he worked his way up the family company.
You know, getting back to where I started, we had a single head embroidery machine. Back then, they didn't have the technology to, when a thread would break, to stop the machine. So my parents hired me to press the stop button when the thread would break, and it was the same design over and over and over again. I got paid with Snickers, a Diet Pepsi, and a quarter.
How old were you?
I was, I believe, 9 years old. So I advanced from my pay operating the embroidery machine. I've done every single job here, excluding the art department, and just kind of worked my way up. And I was in sales, and then I progressed into running the company. My dad still works with me with the company. We're partners. I've got my oldest son working with me in the production team, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to have him climb up as I did and be my partner with the company.
Are you paying the son with Snicker bars too?
Slightly more, yeah.
Go USA operates as a full-service company designing logos for companies as well as producing their promotional materials. Hamilton says with so many products to offer, there's unlimited options for clients.
So our lead artist, Kyle Barnes, I'd put him up against anybody. He's an award-winning artist. He does amazing work. He really takes advantage of our color blast printing for the t-shirts, and give him a little direction, and he produces amazing stuff. So there's over 1 million different products. Really it's identifying what's trending, what fits our clients' needs the best, how to get their brand out there.
Hamilton says one of Go USA's largest and longest standing clients was built on a handshake.
So our number one client is Les Schwab Tires. They've got over 400 locations on the West Coast. That's been a 26-year relationship based on a handshake. So that's been a long journey and a lot of good relationships. It started out with a relationship with the East Wenatchee manager at the time, and then word just kind of spread from location to location. And when it did come time for us to interview for that position with Les Schwab, we turned out number 2. And after a couple months, they came calling again, and they said, "Hey, number 1 didn't deliver. We want you." Les Schwab was our big whale that we caught. We also do work with a number of agriculture companies, as well as the finance companies, health companies. So our portfolio is very broad, but again, the ag plays a big role for us.
So what is the industry term for branded materials?
Swag. So that's basically anything you can put a logo on. Nowadays, back in the day, it was called trinkets and trash. It's evolved into swag. People, I think nowadays get the word swag and it's fun. It's putting that logo on that coffee mug or that hat or the pop socket.
Hamilton gives us a little history on when promotional products started and the strangest item Go USA has ever had to brand.
So it actually started way back when with Abraham Lincoln. He had a button that he used in his campaigns. And so that's kind of where the first promotional product began. Strangest thing would probably be back, when my dad was selling a lot more and he had a G-string that had a logo on it. That was a bar up in Alaska that he had as a client, and they wanted G-strings. Really don't explain it. It's probably a matter of where did the logo go.
Not only does Go USA pride itself on supporting the community during local events like Color Rush, Hamilton says it's important to take care of his employees too.
This last summer, we started a program called Summer Fridays. Our staff added an hour to their work days on Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday they got to take off at noon. Really got some great results from our staff. They were happy, whether it was going home to mow the lawn, to getting out of town early, or just going home to take a nap and get rested for the weekend. That was a great experience.
The production floor at Go USA is filled with top-tier technology to produce high-quality, trending products while carrying brands like North Face, Cutter & Buck, Carhartt, Under Armour, and Nike.
Our machines, they're unlike a traditional screen printing machine where you're paying for each color. Our Color Blast machine, it's all computerized, so it's basically your glorified inkjet printer that's throwing a logo on the shirts. I mean, that's the fun part of this, is rarely being able to having to say no to something. If it's a great picture of an apple, being able to reproduce it and still have that same quality that you would see on a photograph.
No matter what's in store for Go USA, Hamilton says employees and clients can always depend on top-notch products and, most importantly, fun.
It's as I had a colleague once say to me, if you're not fun, you're fired. We want it to be fun. If you come to your job and you're not happy, that's not the right place for you. And with the products that we produce, I mean, you got to be able to have fun. I mean, it's good stuff.
Coming up next on Spotlight on Business, we go from great logos to great food. It's right here on the NCWLIFE channel. Welcome back to the NCWLIFE channel Spotlight on Business. I'm Eric Granstrom. There's a restaurant that's been doing business here in the Wenatchee Valley since 1940, and they're still going strong. Today we're going to learn more about the Cottage Inn with Dan and Cheryl Sutton.
I'm Cheryl Sutton.
And I'm Dan Sutton. We're the owners of the Cottage Inn. The Cottage Inn was built in 1940. It was a family from Greece, Nick Lolis, and it's been family owned and or operated by families in general. Since its conception, it's always been in private families' development and ownership.
The Suttons moved from the west side, bringing years of experience in the food industry along with them.
We came over for this restaurant. This opportunity came up. It's something that we'd looked at off and on for a while. And when we found out that it was coming on the market, we immediately began discussions with the family and retired from our careers over there and moved over here. Probably one of the best moves we've ever made. As a kid, my folks would come down here and I'd saddle up to the table and have pan-fried chicken. And we still have it with the same pans that were used back in 1940.
No kidding.
Yep.
We asked the Suttons who their inspiration was in the kitchen.
My mom and my grandmothers, both sides of the family. My great-grandmother on my father's side is Danish, or was Danish, and she baked bread almost every day. So we would go over there with our grubby little hands and help knead the dough, and it was always a little bit darker than her dough when we were done. And my grandmother on my mom's side, she was just a good old country cook, and I would stand on an applewood box next to the stove and help her stir the pots and pans when I was too small to even reach the top of the stove. It just loved it. I loved to eat, you know. My folks would go to town and leave me at home, and I'd have the bacon out in the pan or the brownies getting cooked in the oven, anything I could cook because I wanted to eat it.
My dad was a great cook, and prerequisite for getting married was either take me out to eat or you better be able to cook. And the trade-off was, I'll do the dishes if you cook.
So what was the first,
And I can't
what was
cook.
the first meal you ever made for Cheryl? You remember?
Burgundy chicken.
Ah, yeah, a burgundy chicken recipe of my own creation. That's right. That's right.
It was burgundy chicken.
And how was it?
Very good.
Okay. You had me a chicken. Nestled in the north side of Wenatchee, the Cottage Inn is well known for its mouth-watering menu and daily specials.
You know, we didn't buy a restaurant. We bought a landmark, an institution in the valley. It's been here for 78 years, and you really want to honor what made the Cottage Inn all those years ago. So our chicken fried steak, our pan-fried chicken, our grilled prawns. There are certain items on the menu you just don't touch. You just leave them for what, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And then that gives me the opportunity to play with specials and other things. And so now the menu is very reflective of the tastes that Cheryl and I have. And our food is great. We know it's a really quality product. We're a from-scratch restaurant. We don't bring anything out of a box. Everything is made here in-house. Our au jus takes 3 days to make from scraps and bones. And if it's not good enough to drink out of a cup, then don't put it on my plate. It should be standalone quality.
The Cottage Inn is a space for all types of dining experiences, including celebrating with your nearest and dearest.
We have lots of birthday celebrations. We have lots of anniversary. I had a couple in last night that they sat at the same booth that they had met each other at and got engaged, and they came back for their anniversary. And I actually have a guy that comes in, a couple that request a certain booth because that's where he proposed. And they come back every year, and it's great.
Back in 1940.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
But we do have lots of family or people that have moved away, and they come back and they'll tell us, gosh, we used to come here, you know, every week with our family. And they're back now, and then they bring their families, and we have the grandchildren coming in, and it's a pleasure.
We've had the opportunity to watch children grow to adults too, customers that come in, and you know, you become involved in their story, and it's great. We've had the good fortune of being able to be in the service of others for a long time.
For the Suttons, their passion overrides any challenges they may face in the restaurant industry. Coupled with their love for the community, Cheryl and Dan say their family is a ways from retirement.
I've thought about, do we retire in the next 10 years? And what are we going to do? I won't see all those people. I won't be able to talk to people. I mean, we have characters that come in. And sometimes I jokingly say, you know, we provide great service and food, and the sarcasm is free.
This industry has a tendency to get under your skin. It gets in your blood. And it's very hard to walk away from something like this. If you have the temperament to work in a restaurant and or own one, it becomes really a part of your persona of who you are.
Aside from their man-made scratch dinners, Cheryl says the desserts alone bring customers through their doors.
Our desserts are phenomenal, and we're one of the few places that still make their own desserts, and they are the original recipes. We've brought a couple things in that we've instituted, and we have people that are just like, we're written up in 3A travel guide for our coconut cream pie, which is the Lolis's recipe.
And it's to die for.
We asked the Suttons if they could choose anything from their menu for their last meal, what would it be?
Big fat ribeye steak with a baked potato in the works.
I would say ribeye. I'd have to say either our chicken piccata or our chicken fried steak. I mean, I own the place and I can still have anything I want. And chicken fried steak is probably one of the best because it's real. It doesn't see the freezer. It's not a hockey puck and it's not mystery meat. It's really a steak.
And it never sees a deep fryer. We tenderize our own. We use our steak ends. When you're cutting steaks, you have a piece that doesn't weigh, and so that gets made. Your chicken fried steak might be New York or tenderloin.
The Cottage Inn aims to provide quality service, fresh food, and a friendly face in the heart of Wenatchee.
I want them to come into my restaurant and feel like they're sitting in my living room. I want them to come in and feel like they're sitting amongst friends, that they're at a dining room table and having good quality home cooked food.
I just had someone that moved up here that is now working for one of the PUDs, and he looked at me and he goes, after he had come here, he looked at me and he goes, wow. He goes, I've been here for 2.5 years and I've been given numerous names of places to go, and he goes, I finally found a restaurant I love. We usually do cutting edge specials. We did the pork belly. We started that 4 years ago. It's
fun to play with food. I guess the biggest thing that I can say to the people of the community is thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being willing participants in our madness here.
Coming up next on the Spotlight on Business, we're heading to the hills of Manson, the Blueberry Hills to be exact. It's right here on the NCWLIFE channel. Today we're up here in Manson, Washington, talking about a family that decided to go from apples to blueberries. We're here at Blueberry Farms to find out how they've been such a great success, not just for North Central Washington, but around the country here in Manson.
My name is Carrie Sorensen, and I am owner and manager of Blueberry Hills Farms. We are located in Manson, Washington, and we are a couple miles outside downtown Manson. I'm fifth generation from right here, and my great-great-grandparents homesteaded here back in the early 1900s. So my parents and I actually took out a whole bunch of apples as Grandpa stood and watched, and it was the saddest thing ever as we took those apples out and Dad put in blueberries. And all the people thought we were crazy, and we kind of thought maybe we were too. And we put in the blueberries, and they actually ended up doing really well, even though we were high desert farming blueberries instead of apples, which would really never been done before. So they're doing really well, obviously, and we ended up putting up a little fruit stand that turned into a commercial restaurant, and here we are today. We were discovered by Seattle Times, and we were named one of the top 4 restaurants in the state worth the drive for breakfast. And then we were named just in 2017 the second best destination restaurant in Washington State by King 5 Television's Viewers' Choice Awards. So we've got people that come just for the day. They drive over and back and pick blueberries or have a French dip and spend time with friends and family, and we're just really grateful that they do. Mom and Dad had friends that were the first commercial blueberry growers down in Arkansas. They propagated a whole bunch of bushes, and back in the late 60s, early 70s, and had a little cracker shack down in Arkansas, down a bumpy dirt road to nowhere. And people came and they did U-Pick, which was before U-Pick was ever really heard of. And it was such a unique thing. And they had a few things on their menu, and you know, it ended up being a tour stop. You know, people would jump on buses and come on out, and the Grand Ole Opry actually discovered it, and they'd spend the weekend out there, and they'd sleep on the family cots in the back, and they'd say, Pauline, you just start cooking and don't stop until I tell you. So, you know, Dad actually met Ed, the son-in-law, back when he went to carpentry school out of high school. So they lost that farm to drought, but they regret ever shutting down that little cafe. So when Dad was considering, you know, why am I putting apples in and making the same mistake? You know, he thought, well, what about blueberries? So he called Ed, and he goes, you know, Ed, you think that, how do you think blueberries would do over here? And Ed goes, well, I think they do great. And so, you know, we ended up putting blueberries in, and, well, they've done great. We are open year-round, and a lot of people don't know that, but we are open from April 1st through October 15th. We are open every day from 8 to 3, and then October 16th through March 31st, we are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, but open the rest of the week, so we can catch up on our laundry and our sanity. We've got 13.5 acres in production of blueberries. We started with 4.5 on the original block, but we've got 3 different properties that actually have blueberries on them. And we're still in production with apples as well. We've got 12.5 acres of that. Yeah, we actually put the plants in 2000, and we saw blueberries. Actually, we saw a few blueberries the first year, but we saw the birds get them as well. So the second year, 2002, we actually got a few blueberries off of them. You know, if you walk in, you'll see 100 years worth of family memorabilia hanging all over the ceiling, and that's because we ran out of money when we were building it. And it's like, well, I wonder what we're going to do now. And then it's like, well, maybe we should go steal stuff from Grandpa's shed. And so then Grandpa got wind of it, and he's like kind of mad about it. And then he kind of realized that we weren't making fun of it. And then he went down and got his Texas Longhorns and brought them up. And at that point, we knew that we had really arrived as far as Grandpa was concerned, and that was a really big deal. You know, we've got a chandelier with a couple hundred eyeglasses and sunglasses that Grandma and Grandpa pack-ratted away over the years. It's true, and we're still finding them. Yeah, you know, people ask Dad all the time, you know, wow, this is really great. You guys must have a lot of restaurant experience. Dad will say, oh, yeah, we had a lot. We've eaten in a lot of restaurants. So, yeah, it's the extent of our restaurant experience. We don't have any restaurant experience. This whole thing was an accident. Wow. So yeah, you know, when you go in Blueberry Hills, you know, you come on in, you grab a menu that's hanging on the post, and I got to tell you the way this whole thing happened. You know, we here's the way it was. I was the first cook, and so I would cook and I would run the cash register, and Mom and Dad would deliver food and bus tables and do the dishes, and it's like, well, are we going to have dishes? We should just have paper plates. And it's like, well, who wants a waffle on a paper plate? Well, that sounds awful. And well, how do we get the dishes to the kitchen? We're going to have to cut a hole in the wall. Well, I don't want a hole in the wall. Who's going to make coffee? I'm not making coffee. So we ended up with real dishes. And Mom would stop and talk, so I had to get one of Grandpa's, big old air horns out to get her back to the kitchen to take waffles out while they were hot. And, the only thing we served when we opened was waffles, blintzes, and a few burgers and pies. And that was it. And we didn't take credit cards. We don't want to mess with credit cards. And then we had people that would show up, and it was all they had, because they were we come up from Wapto Point. It's like, wow, this is really neat. And so we're like, well, we don't take credit cards. And so we'd tear off the receipt from the register and hand them a business card. Well, there you go. They're like, are you kidding? And it's like, oh, no, and just send us a check, and they would. Or they didn't, we don't know. The best thing about Blueberry Hills, I would have to say, is that the staff that we've had, I mean, who gets to say as a restaurant owner, and I'm talking to all the restaurant owners out there, you know who you are. My line cooks have been with me for 14 years. 14 years. And they're always in a good mood. When does that happen? Ever, ever, never. But yeah, Ruben and Elpidio, and they live in Grandma and Grandpa's house down here at the bottom of the hill, across the street from me, and they're great. They work that line together. And the thing is, our kitchen's really open. So it's kind of dinner and a show. When you come to Blueberry Hills, you can see what's going on in there. And you can tell how busy it is because you'll see all the stuff all over the floor, hash browns flying. It's pretty great. But, we don't hide anything from people, We're not your run-of-the-mill place, and we're not trying to be. We're not going to lie to you. And, if you want an omelet, we're not your place. If you're looking for an In-N-Out place, we're not your place either. We make excellent food. We do huge portions for, family-friendly prices. We do excellent food, and recipes that Grandma would use, and the best eggs Benedict known to mankind. Great salads and burgers, and chicken fried steak, and just great recipes. If you're looking for an experience, if you're looking for really great food, you should come to Blueberry Hills. You should bring your friends, you should bring your family. It's special, it's different, it's worth it. It's worth the drive.